Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good wherever it is, whatever it is, wherever you are. I'm Zach Godfrey, and I guess I'm your U.S. history teacher. Today's topic, Oregon country. The beautiful mountains of the Pacific Northwest and how they came to be part of the United States of America. Now, before we get started, if you do have access to your Jefferson textbook from the McGraw-Hill publisher, I want you to go to Chapter 13, Lesson 1. Chapter 13 is the Manifest Destiny chapter. Lesson 1 covers the topic of the Oregon country. So, go ahead and click on the mousey. Digitally zoom to get that textbook access. If you can, and follow along in the textbook with the lecture. I just think it helps. It provides some good supplemental information for the lecture. All right, here we go. You know how we do this. We break it into topics. Topic number 1. I'm just going to give you some broad background knowledge in geography on Oregon country. So Oregon country is in what we call the Pacific Northwest. I don't know on the camera if it's going to change it, but if you're looking at a map of the United States, you'd be like, that away. But on the camera, it may not. So don't take that, seriously. Okay. Oregon country includes all the areas basically like north of California and west of the Rocky Mountains all the way to the Pacific Ocean. The states, the modern day U.S. states that make up Oregon country, guess what? Number 1, Oregon. Crazy. Number 2, the state of Washington. Not Washington, D.C., on the East Coast in between Virginia and Maryland. The state of Washington on the West Coast. West Coast, the state of Washington. And Idaho, where I think they have lots of potatoes and some mountains. And they also have Boise State, which is a university, and their football team plays football on a blue field. And so those 3 states make up Oregon country. Also, Oregon country included parts of the modern day states of Montana and Wyoming. So that's Oregon country, like a geographical description. And then a side note from history. And then we're basically done with topic 1. The side note is that to begin our story after the War of 1812, Oregon country and the United States and Great Britain, they had joint occupation. So basically, they both agreed to share and control the Oregon country. So when our story takes place in the Oregon country, both the United States of America and Great Britain, the Empire, have agreed to joint occupation in the Oregon country. And that is topic number 1. Okay, topic number 1, background and geography of the Oregon country. Topic 2, early life in early Oregon country. You know, everything's progression, just start right away. So it was a progression of movement into Oregon country. Some of the first people we saw move into Oregon country were called mountain men. They were mountain men. They were fur trappers. They predominantly trapped beaver, and they would use the beaver felt, the skin of the beaver to make hats and things like that. They're kind of like the first European people to establish trade in that region, as far as like Europeans and colonization of the region. Obviously, natives were trading in that region prior. One of the results outside of the introduction of European people into the Oregon region of mountain men was the over-trapping of beaver. That's going to lead to a decline in beaver. And the mountain men are going to have to figure out different ways to live. Mountain men that didn't go back to the East Coast, that stayed in Oregon country, transitioned from beaver hunters and the capture of fur trapping to settling farms in the Oregon country. A significant amount of mountain men that decided to not settle down in Oregon country and make farms and things like that in communities worked as tour guides. And what they would do is, now this is in the time frame of Manifest Destiny, and people are wanting to move east to west. Well, not a lot of people know what's going on in the west. Not a lot of people know what's going on in Oregon country. So these former mountain men would transition in kind of like tour guides for these earlier pioneers that wanted to move into the Northwest. Over time, the movement of mountain men guiding pioneers from the east to the Pacific Northwest would establish a pretty famous route called Oregon Trail. The Oregon Trail was one of the first fun computer games, coincidentally, that I played as a child. I think there's many versions of it to this day. The Oregon Trail was established as a result of this, and this became the most popular route for passage and travel for pioneers wanting to head to the Northwest region, to the Pacific Northwest of the United States. And that's topic 2. If you are in the textbook, like I encourage you to do, there's always that lesson resource feature. You're going to see a beaver felt hat, like something made as a result of mountain men trapping beaver. You're going to tracing. Oh, there's going to be a trading post, an image of a trading post that's going to be raided by Native Americans. It's a pretty interesting story. I'm going to tell you about that story in a second as well. And you will also have a map of the Oregon Trail. So take a look at those lesson resources, make it come to life. Add some visuals to this auditory, aesthetically stunning lecture that you're able to witness right now. Add those visuals to it as well. Okay, this is the next topic. This is impact on the natives. So you had European and American movement into the Northwest region, into the Oregon country. It's starting to establish more of a prevalence as far as like European people in the region. One of the goals of many European people was to promote Christianity. I told you when we talked about Texas Revolution what Alamo was. It was a missionary. Those are missions to convert native peoples. So we had a mission in the Oregon country. It was called the Whitman Mission, and I believe it was controlled by a married couple named the Whitmans. Well, they had people come in and out because it was also like a post that you could stop on your way to Oregon country. And as Americans and Europeans were moving to that region, some of them brought disease. Some of them brought a really deadly disease at the time called measles. And there was an outbreak throughout the missionary that spread to natives in the region. And it led to the deaths of many natives from a tribe called the Cayuse. And so many natives died from this measles outbreak. They had never been exposed to measles before, so obviously they have no immunities. They, understandably so, they blame the Whitmans and they blame the mission for bringing that disease. And they actually attacked one day as a response to the measles outbreak. They attacked the Whitmans and all remaining missions at the missionary. I believe 11 deaths. And this is just an example of tensions that obviously have to culminate when you bring European people into territory that they've never been in, and you introduce them to natives for the first time. Of course, there's going to be these types of issues, as we kind of already know from previous U.S. history, whether we go all the way back to the French and Indian War, War of 1812, the Seminole Wars, Indian removal. Every time Europeans come into areas in the Americas, usually it results in negative treatment of native people and them losing their land and lots of sadness and death. And the introduction of Europeans in the Oregon country has a similar effect on natives in that region. So we just need to be cognizant of that. And that's topic 3, and that's the impact on the natives of movement and migration into the Oregon country. Okay, next topic. If we recollect, we've had a whole lecture talking about the transitions of presidents all the way from Andrew Jackson to James K. Polk, and what made Polk special. Polk was the president that really ran on a Manifest Destiny platform, and he really took over America that was a lot more willing and able at that time to go ahead and truly expand from sea to shining sea. So we know he ran on a Manifest Destiny platform. Oregon country touches the Pacific coast, so it's great access to coastline. He wants to get Oregon country for the United States of America. He is tired of joint occupation where both countries share and control the region mutually. And he ran on that Manifest Destiny platform. Manifest Destiny, we want it, we want to get it. And one of his campaign slogans was 54, 40, or fight. And basically what that means is there was the shared territory of the Oregon country. They wanted to draw a line. And the line was the line of latitude, 54 degrees, 40 degrees north latitude. And they said, Great Britain, aka Canada, everything above that line is yours, everything below that line is ours. And if you don't give it to us, we're going to fight. And that was their campaign slogan, to kind of coerce Great Britain to get rid of joint occupation. As we know, Polk won over Kay. Polk becomes president. They sit down with the British and they make their demands. The British don't accept the 54-40 line. That's how negotiations go. You very rarely accept the first thing that's proposed. What they do accept, though, Great Britain accepts, they accept the 49 degrees north latitude. So that's what, like 5 degrees further south than the proposed line. So not as far north, not as much territory as Polk and the Americans wanted, but still a decent territory. They draw that line, 49 degree latitude in the Oregon country, and that essentially separates the border. Great Britain and Canada have everything north of that line. We have everything south. There's a few idiosyncratic things when you go all the way through the border between the U.S. and Canada where not everything is perfectly along that 49th degree parallel line. But for the most part, that did establish the permanent and forever boundary between the United States and what was Great Britain and what is now Canada. And so joint occupation of the Oregon country is over. And again, just like Polk's done with the Mexican-American War, he's done it with the Oregon country in this negotiation with the British. We've gone from sea to shining sea. Manifest destiny continues to be fulfilled. Interesting side note, John Quincy Adams, I believe under President Monroe, who wrote the Monroe Doctrine, he was Secretary of State. 21 years before Polk became president, John Quincy Adams did propose to the British that the line, the border between the British and Canada and the United States of America should be the 49th degree latitude. And the British said no, they scoffed at it. They said, we're going to do joint occupation. And I just think that's an example of America's growing influence in that 20-year period or so. At one point in time, Great Britain was like, no, we're not going to give you what you want. Now we're growing, we're becoming more and more influential. When we make a demand, even though we don't necessarily get everything we want, Britain in some way, shape, or form is like forced to listen because we have a lot more influence. We're a lot stronger as a nation. That's it, guys. That's a quick little one. We ran through it. We did the Oregon country. That's the process of Oregon country eventually being part of America and the eventual border that we established between the Oregon country and what is now Canada. Take a look at this. Well, I guess you already had. You're at the end. All right. Take your noties, write your summary, do your online assessment/assignment, and just be the best you can be. Be safe and stay active, please. Move your body. Love you guys. Peace.